Hello and welcome back to another episode of Sacred Games Daily. It's been a couple weeks. I've been out on vacation and I came back with sickness and my voice sounds like crap, but oddly enough, it sounds better than it did 3 days ago. So we're going to go ahead and record anyways, even if it sounds like I'm constantly gargling gravel. But I'm here with Joe Smalley as usual, and we're going to go over one topic that I think will be pretty juicy today. Maybe I'll try to let Joe talk more than me, but I don't know. Sometimes I get caught up in it and I just keep talking anyways. But yeah, I sound shitty, but I'm here for you guys anyways. We're going to talk about Microsoft and them dominating the PlayStation Store. Joe, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm currently on the Resident Evil 4 Platinum grind.
The remake.
The remake, yes, of course.
Yeah.
I am into my fourth playthrough of it now. I just finished my third playthrough at 3 hours.
Wait. You've played through Resident Evil 4 now? You're on your fourth playthrough?
Fourth
Holy
playthrough,
shit, dude.
Yeah.
I think that passed. I didn't think I realized that. That's insane, man. I played it twice when I got it.
So the last time I played it, I beat it in 3 hours.
Well, dude, if you know what you're doing and you're good and you can just dominate.
Dude, it's
that game
is
is so replayable. It's so good.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was saying this to you earlier, not to tangent again, but like I probably put in terms of like platinums across series, I probably put them like I've got the most platinums in Resident Evil as a series than anything else.
Yeah.
Just because the way they do like their trophies and their like the challenge system and everything and the multiple playthroughs, it's just so satisfying to get like the S ranks and everything. So
it's crazy how good that remake is. I feel like if you remove history and nostalgia, remake is a fundamentally better game than the original. It's just so well done.
I'm yet to play the Separate Ways DLC as well because I haven't bought that. So once I do all the platinum in and stuff, the main game, I'm gonna go do the Separate Ways stuff. So,
I think you'll really appreciate it. Meanwhile, while you're playing something cool, I've just been dicking around on Roller Coaster Tycoon
and
the
RuneScape.
Original. And ran RuneScape too, actually. Yeah, but I remember I texted a buddy today who we played Roller Coaster Tycoon together when we were little kids, like 25 years ago or so.
Oh, wow.
And I was telling him, and he's like, wow, what a game to be playing. And I'm like, and what did I say? I was like, yeah, I'm making sure to charge my guests $5 to shit. And then if I get irritated enough, I just decide to drown them. So that's basically my experience playing Roller Coaster Tycoon. But it's been a blast. I've been dipping into Final Fantasy 16's DLC a little bit too. But I've actually, like, I dipped into it and I'm like, I'm not in the mood to be like this serious right now. So I just want to go back to Roller Coaster Tycoon. I also put music on and I just listen to music while I play Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Yeah. Well, I mean, coming off a vacation, like you kind of have that like touch grass kind of equilibrium in many ways that a lot of us have. And then also this sickness as well, probably that you were feeling. Well,
there's that. And then I also played 90 hours of Final Fantasy Rebirth. And I was just like, I don't want to jump into something serious again.
Especially when it's more Final Fantasy.
It's more Final Fantasy. Yeah. So, so we're going to talk about, this is something that I think this news first came out probably a week ago or so more ago, but it's still relevant to what I want to talk about. So I'll spoil you right off the bat, Joe, and say before me and Joe decided what we were going to talk about today, what I had in my mind I was going to say, okay, let's play a game of Devil's Advocate. Okay. And what my pitch to Joe was going to be, I think Xbox, I was going to put it this way. I think Halo Infinite and Starfield are some really good exclusive games. And while I know that Joe and I both think objectively that Halo Infinite and Starfield are good games, I like them both more than Joe does. We both can complain about them and stuff, but like Joe's much more harsher on them. So the whole topic was going to be like Devil's Advocate. I think Microsoft has some killer IP that would make you want to play on their system. And then Joe was going to be but they're not that good really. We're still going to kind of do that, but we're going to reframe it around this packaging that is this news that came out a week ago. So once again, bear with me in my voice, guys. This is from Windows Central. Originally broke from Derek Strickland of, I think it's like tweak.com, whatever it'll say as I read through this, but here it goes. Tweaktown, tweaktown.com. I've never heard of them before this. In analysis from Strickland, this is Derek Strickland that I just spoke of. 7 of the top 20 most purchased games on PlayStation as of right now are all Microsoft-owned franchises. Call of Duty sits at the top, as you might expect, followed by Overwatch 2, Sea of Thieves, Fallout 4, Minecraft, Fallout 76, and Grounded. Fallout 4 and Fallout 76 are enjoying a massive bump from the hit TV series that just hit Amazon Prime. Sea of Thieves is launching on PlayStation for the first time after casting off its console-exclusive shackles, and Overwatch 2 just got a new season with some much-needed changes. And well, Call of Duty and Minecraft are just Call of Duty and Minecraft. It represents a bold new world for Microsoft where the price of ballooning costs and runaway inflation and sticky silicon prices have seen it break traditions in order to find more growth. None of this means it's getting out of developing its own hardware mind, since Microsoft learned the hard way with Windows Phone what happens when you completely remove yourself from the platform equation. Indeed, Microsoft confirmed repeatedly over the last year that it is working on a new Xbox hardware to compete with PlayStation, which will now, at least in part, be subsidized by selling games on PlayStation's own store. So this has kind of been a hot topic for Xbox all year. Beginning of the year, it was rumored like, oh man, Xbox is going to go full third party. Maybe they won't make consoles anymore. Then Microsoft came out. We've talked about this before. They were like, no, we're still making consoles. We're just bringing a couple games over, a couple smaller titles like Sea of Thieves and Hi-Fi Rush. And that became old news. And now these games are starting to come over to PlayStation. And I think it's a really interesting topic because, Microsoft dominating the PlayStation Store, it's surprising as a headline, but it's not surprising at all once you think about it. Mm-hmm. Microsoft now owns Activision Blizzard, which means Call of Duty games on PlayStation are going to fall under Microsoft. Blizzard games like Overwatch are going to fall under Microsoft. They purchased Bethesda a few years ago. So games like Skyrim, Elder Scrolls, Fallout, those are going to fall under the Microsoft umbrella. Yep. And then of course, Minecraft, which has been there forever. And then they have like Sea of Thieves coming over and Hi-Fi Rush. And it's just interesting because on one hand, it's like Microsoft is the biggest third-party publisher in the world, even though they have their own console. Yep. With some of the biggest games ever. But if you also look at the history of Microsoft, I mean, we know Microsoft to be the owners of Minecraft now, but there was many, many, many years where Minecraft was a huge game and Microsoft didn't own them. Mm-hmm. So you even go back to Minecraft, you're like, oh, okay, well, that originally wasn't Microsoft either. You look at Fallout 4 and Bethesda titles. Well, that wasn't originally Microsoft either. So basically everything here except Sea of Thieves, which, I mean, we got to give Microsoft some credit. It wouldn't be fair for me to say, well, that's Rare, and it used to not be Microsoft either. Rare's been with Microsoft for like 20 years, so we got to give them that one. But like a lot of the success is things that they've bought up, and they have just, I think, I don't know, maybe you were more like aware of it than me, Joe, but I don't think I fully realized that Microsoft was just low-key becoming a giant third-party publisher until the Activision deal. I think up through like when they were buying Obsidian and Minecraft and Bethesda and In Exile, I looked at it as Microsoft's trying to beef up their own ecosystem and their own Microsoft Xbox branding. But around the time they announced they were buying Activision Blizzard, it became, oh, wait a minute, this is bigger than just beefing up their own console. This is more.
Yeah, I think you're bang on with that. Like, even when they had all those, smaller studios presented in one of their E3s and stuff like that, it was like, it just felt like they were kind of bolstering what they already had, kind of addressing the criticism in a somewhat organic way with buying up smaller studios and stuff. And I think it only came to fruition properly when they bought ZeniMax. And obviously when they bought ABK King and stuff like that, it was just like, all right, this is your end game. It's no longer let's bolster the Xbox One. It's let's bolster Xbox as a service and a game studio as a whole. And yeah, I think you bang on with that.
Yeah, it's just interesting because, and I do wonder how much of it was completely planned and how much of it was, holy shit, we have a chance to buy Activision Blizzard. Let's pivot a little bit, because I think the direction was like Game Pass and bolstering in-house IP and exclusives. And then the Activision thing came up and it was like, well, wait a minute. This is huge.
Yeah.
We could be the biggest third-party publisher ever. And also, do we want to keep going? I mean, we don't actually know if they've changed their mind on this or not yet, but do we want to keep going heavy into Game Pass as our future? Because you're seeing the success here, and it's like, as the biggest third-party publisher in the world, do we want to continue to foster people don't buy their games?
Yeah,
they just buy Game Pass. And I know they can always sell this stuff on PlayStation, sell the stuff on Nintendo, Steam, and then be like, but look at us over on Xbox. It's free over there.
Yeah.
But I wonder if it gets to a point where does that even make sense for them anymore? Because it's like, well, we're making so much money on other platforms. even though the Xbox platform is smaller, do we just want to try to sell them on ours too?
Yeah, and the thing is they obviously lose out on money when it comes to the hardware sales anyway. So it's just like, why not just throw it onto
losing on hardware?
Yeah,
and then pretty much anyone who, I know there's some of us hanging on. I'm one of them, but almost anyone who owns an Xbox going forward, they're just gonna get Game Pass and not buy their games. So it's like, okay, we're making all this money on other platforms, or we can have people buy an Xbox, we lose money on the hardware, and then sign up to Game Pass, we lose money on the selling the games. When I said I'm one of the last ones hanging on, what I mean is I own an Xbox, and if I want a game on Xbox, I do purchase it. I don't use Game Pass. Yep. Game Pass is a great deal, but it's just never been how I like to consume my games. I like to purchase a game intentionally, support the developer, play that game, be happy that I own it, and then move on. And I don't play, like, Game Pass would make me feel like I need to play games that I don't necessarily need to play or want to play.
Sure.
It would make me feel like I need to play more games. So, like, for instance, this year, the only game I've bought on Xbox was Star Wars Dark Forces Remastered, which I could have bought on PlayStation or anything else. It wasn't on Game Pass. Game Pass would be servicing me. No, I would just be paying money for it and not really using it. But yeah, I don't know. This kind of begs a couple few questions that we'll go through in the next like 20 minutes of the podcast here. Well, my initial, like, devil's advocate thing was going to be like, hey, Joe, I think Microsoft has a couple really good titles that make it worth being on Xbox. And my two titles are going to be Halo Infinite and Starfield. Because for me, and correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, for me, I love Halo Infinite. Big fan of that game. I think Starfield's great and I like it, but I'm nowhere near as big a fan of Starfield as I am Halo Infinite. Like, Halo Infinite's more special to me. For you, I think both of them are like, yeah, I think they're good, but neither of them get my jimmies rustled, and it's hardly a reason to be on the Xbox. Is that correct?
So I think that Halo Infinite, for me personally, is a monumentally better game than Starfield. I think
that's worth pointing out.
The issues I have with Starfield is more a design issue, whereas Halo Infinite's issues for me stem more from like just
legacy.
Not really legacy, but just a lack of a capitalization on potential. In my opinion, I don't think there was much potential behind Starfield. In all honesty, like, I think there could have been if it was a completely different game, but I think as it stands, that game there's nothing really there. It's kind of a meatless sandwich in many ways for me personally.
Okay. But do you think Infinite had the potential?
I think Infinite had the potential, and then some, 100%. And I think in many ways that's what makes me more critical of
salty.
Yeah, like upset in many ways. But yeah, I think you're not that wrong necessarily. I think they're both on the level in terms of like where I value them as games in their respective platform, if that makes sense, for different reasons. So.
Well, and there's so many different ways to spin this conversation. I feel like I'll end up losing sight of some points I wanted to make, but it makes me wonder, tell me if this makes any sense to you. I could be just spewing nonsense here, but I feel like there's some truth to it. When I look at Sea of Thieves on my PlayStation Store, or Fallout 4, or, Hi-Fi Rush, I do kind of look at it almost with the sheen of better quality. And that's so stupid. It's the exact same game. It's on Xbox. It's no different. And I wonder if Halo Infinite and Starfield were coming across for full price pre-orders on PlayStation Store, how excited people would get, how much it would sell, and how it might be looked at differently. Also, considering the fact that in the case of Halo Infinite, people would be getting this game chock full of extra maps, Forge, customizable, or what was I going to say? Custom browser,
sure.
All the customization, all the seasons, all that's there. Things have been patched, cleaned up. Also, Sony doesn't really have an exclusive first-person shooter that's that great. So, like, playing Halo Infinite on a PlayStation with that campaign and then all that, that'd be cool. Like, I do wonder if, like, there's almost a stigma around Microsoft and Xbox that once you put it on a PlayStation platform. And this is where my argument kind of falls apart, is these games are already on Steam.
Yep.
So, and I do feel like like you showed me Halo Infinite's player numbers the other day from Steam. They're shit. They're awful.
Yeah. You're looking at max maybe 5,000 people on Steam.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like, I don't know how much my argument holds water there. Starfield, Starfield, I feel like, I don't know what, like, it's not a multiplayer game. I don't know what its current like player count is on Steam, but I feel like Starfield was doing really well across Steam and PC and Xbox when it came out in like the first month and whatnot. Not doing good right now. What's it at?
Oh,
What's it at?
5,000 right now.
5,000 on
24-hour
Steam?
peak, 5,615. Holy shit!
It's also an older. It's not a new release, and I don't know what's the modding community like for Starfield. I feel like nobody talks about it. Is there modding for Starfield? Like,
there's people modding it, like allowing ships to go faster and stuff like that. But I think a lot of people are kind of just. We've spoke about this before. People are a little bit down and out in general about Bethesda titles having Starfield not evolve the formula that much, and I feel like. Obviously, the Fallout show has revitalized 76, 4, and stuff like that. But I think for the most part, like people are just kind of like, especially the modding team. I feel like a lot of modders are looking at Starfield in the way that it's like, well, clearly, like this isn't a very good foundation in many ways for modding, and I feel like. I don't know what the word is. It's not half-arsing it because I'd never want to call the developers lazy, but like as an overall concept, it just doesn't feel very like well thought out Starfield in many ways to a lot of modders. So like modders are just kind of going, we're not going to fix it. There was literally articles about that where modders were like, nah, not going to bother.
I think there is a lot less excitement to mod the hell out of Starfield as there was for Elder Scrolls or Fallout, right? But the thing that confuses me is I feel like Starfield having all those planets would make for like limitless possibilities for modding. So I don't know why people aren't excited to just like, hey, I'm going to make this planet like the Fallout planet, or I'm going to make this the Halo or the Mass Effect planet. You know, I thought that would have been a thing, but I mean, there's so many different, like I said, there's so many different ways to spin this. It could literally be a 5-hour podcast, but I'm like,
100%.
You know, you talk about Fallout is taking off and has high player concurrency because people are excited from watching the Amazon show. And, you know, you don't have that for, like, obviously the Halo had a Halo show, and any way you want, there's multiple reasons why it's not hitting like the Fallout show is. I think the most paramount reason, it's funny I use the word paramount because that's the subscription service it's on. I think the most paramount reason is because the show's not that great. Like season 1, I would say was bad. Season 2 was good in a very like level-headed way, like nothing that you need to subscribe for, but good. And I think once you kill the momentum with the first season, it's gonna be hard to get that with the second season. But I think the most paramount reason is the show's not that good, and it doesn't really respect the fans of the games, and it doesn't really make people who don't play the games want to play them. But then there's also the fact it's on Paramount, which is like a weird subscription service not everyone has. You know, season 1 wasn't that great, stuff like that. But, you know, Halo's not popping off from the show. And Fallout is, and then Starfield doesn't have any kind of tie-in. So it's just this weird place with the gaming industry where I'm like, Microsoft's titles are doing so well on the PlayStation Store. Fallout's doing so well everywhere because of the show. And then you have like Halo and Starfield are just kind of meh. I feel like Xbox has great games, but there's a reason they're just not taking off the way they should. And I don't know where it's going to go from here, right? Because like even Hi-Fi Rush, like that's been beloved because it was this fun, kind of almost like indie-like title, even though it's not an indie title. It's, you know, from the people who made Evil Within. And then like Sea of Thieves being this like cartoony, online only, constantly game that's been around forever, that's now coming over to Sony and people are excited about playing it. What do you think, Joe? I have too many questions to ask, but I'm just going to ask this one. Do you think Starfield and Halo Infinite just aren't as good as Sea of Thieves or Overwatch 2 or Call of Duty? Or do you think they just need something juiced into them to fuel them up? Like what if Halo Infinite came over to PlayStation Store? Would it pop off or not?
Yeah, I think it would pop off 100%. I think you'd see it on the chart, no doubt in my mind. Whether it'd last you know, like Sea of Thieves has in many ways.
Would it get a renewed life, like where like Halo Infinite is a more consistently played live service game?
I don't know, because it's really hard to figure that out, simply because Sony in many ways now, PlayStation, there's so like PlayStation fans, including myself, are so accustomed to kind of just that like narrative over the shoulder third person hack and slash beat 'em up style of style, that formula, and we like that. Like, as much as like that's the biggest criticism of PlayStation, right? It's like, well, these games just keep, they're the same all around, but it's like, well, at least it's consistently fucking phenomenal, And I think in many ways, I don't think we really, in many ways, none of us really want it or care about it. I mean, it would be cool. I would never say no to like having Halo on PlayStation and stuff for people that want it, but I genuinely think that, I think Starfield will be bigger. I think Starfield would be much more of a hit, just simply because, like, it's Bethesda RPG.
It's the Bethesda RPG that Sony missed out on.
Yeah, and it kind of fits into that. I think that fits into the PlayStation formula and ecosystem way more than obviously Halo does and stuff like that as a traditional first-person shooter. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know whether did you ask if like Halo Infinite and Starfield are as good as Sea of Thieves and stuff? Like, that's a tricky question.
Yeah, well, yeah, because I feel like, imagine this seems like kind of ridiculous for me to say, but I think there's little hints in the industry that this might happen. What if it's 2026 and Halo Infinite, Starfield, Fable, all these like Xbox as we know them now exclusive games are on PlayStation 5, they're on Switch 2, they're on Steam. Like, because Microsoft's been talking about like, oh, we can do better. We can sell more games. We can be more profitable, grow the industry if we're not exclusive. Does it get to a point where these games get out of the shadow of being Xbox games and become something much more beloved and much more successful? I know they're not, like, if it's a single player game, they're not always going to be in the top charts. Like, obviously Sea of Thieves is a live service game. So like, we may see Sea of Thieves and obviously Overwatch 2 stay up there off and on for a long time. Halo Infinite, potentially, if the live service really got new legs from being on a PlayStation Store and Switch 2. But like, I don't know, like, for as dumb as a lot of things Microsoft has done or things we don't like, where it's like, oh, Sony's getting all these awesome exclusives, Nintendo's getting all these awesome exclusives. Microsoft, what are you giving us? Like, oh, you gave us nothing in 2022. You gave us a Halo game that was not finished. For all of their like stupid decisions, they also seem like they always pretty much know what's going to happen in the future. They just often don't like handle it properly. Like, everything the Xbox One was going to do in 2013 pretty much happened. Like, games branched into television. That they called that happened. Games were going to be either constantly online in huge ways, like the live, like 2013, we did not have the live service takeover that we have now.
No.
Microsoft was kind of predicting that. Like, the problem was they wanted to have 24-hour check-in on the Xbox, which, like, even now you don't need to play. No. You're like God of War Ragnarok. There'd be no reason to have that.
Zero.
But they wanted to do this whole thing where like games were going to be like, they were going to limit trading in games, and then like, but you could share with your friends. You could give your friends your digital copy to
only for
play.
a limited time, right, or something, wasn't it?
Well, I think pretty much as you wanted. If it was you select someone,
right?
But then you'd have to do the 24-hour check-in to make sure that I haven't given my game to 29 people, and then they all went offline, right?
Fucking A.
So, but pretty much everything that Microsoft said was going to happen, has kind of happened. And now what are they saying now? They're like, oh, I don't really think exclusives are going to be this way anymore. And a lot of us, including me, are kind of putting our hands up and going, well, it's because you're the one that sucks, right? Like, of course you're saying that. Like, you would love to see Sony's games come on your platform, all that stuff. But I also think they're probably right, that I do think you see the barriers coming down, and that in 5-10 years, what is it going to look like when there's barely any exclusives? I mean, even now, Ghost of Tsushima is about to come to Steam with the PlayStation overlay, earning trophies. So like, even if you never see a Sony game on an Xbox, I do think you're going to see Sony games all over the PC. Because, I mean, we already do, right? Like, they're already there. Yeah. Ratchet & Clank, Spider-Man, Horizon, God of War.
Juice in the orange. Yep.
Hellblade 2 launched to Helldivers 2 launched to massive success by being day one on PC. So I think Microsoft's right here once again. Like I said, if the Xbox continues to sell like 20 million or less consoles, we're probably never going to see a Sony exclusive really on the Xbox, because why would they bother? If somehow Xbox can sell more like hardware, maybe. But I think Microsoft's relatively right that we're going to see everything kind of everywhere. Yeah. So it does just make me wonder if we're going to be reevaluating these games that have got dogged on like Starfield, like Halo Infinite. There's rumors that a Gears of War 6 is so many rumors, I think it's pretty much fact at this point, is going to be announced. Gears of War 6 is going to be announced.
Well, yeah, like what have they been doing for this long, if not, like...
Yeah, and like, is Gears of War 6 going to come out as a Xbox / Steam, Xbox PC store exclusive?
Yeah.
Will it come to, will this be the opportunity to make Gears 6 come out on PlayStation? I don't know. I think, and one of the things Microsoft's been saying is like, there's so much life in these life games, these Roblox, Minecraft, Fortnite, where like, it doesn't matter if the game's 5 years old, 6, 7 years old, the money's there, the people are there, it's going to consistently be there. And I just wonder if we would look at Starfield and Halo Infinite, those are the two prime ones I've been talking about, but other games as well. If we look at them through a different light, if they were on the PlayStation Store, if they were available everywhere, if they're on the Switch too, I don't know. What do you think, Joe? I mean, to kind of bring this all into wrap this up into a
you've been going off genuinely going off really good points. I don't know where I stand when it comes to like the games being on different platforms and how we look at them as more of a prestigious product. I don't know where I stand on that personally, and I think that might be more because I've been so detached from Xbox for so long that like I got to be real, guys. Like when I see an Xbox product, like I don't go ew or something. I'm not like some. It's not like I've got some like superiority complex over Xbox, but I just don't even turn an eye. Like straight up, like there's part of me that I'm just not interested, and I don't know whether it's a psychological thing, like I'm used to thinking that way for so long, or it's because genuinely those products a lot of the time don't click with me anymore, and I'm expecting disappointment. But I don't know. I don't know to that point. But in terms of Xbox and like their sort of future proofing ideas and their sort of foresight, it's incredible. I mean, Xbox are a service-based company, and they will always be a service-based company. So their bread and butter is in this. It's in the live service. It's in the sort of lack of hardware per se, the software, all that stuff. That's where they sort of flourish in many ways. Yeah. That's where they show their petals. And I think that, like you said, you see that with the TV that they do, the DRM, the live service. Like, it's all there in the past. They've got the receipts. And I think that, in all honesty, like, I've said this before, but seeing these products on various other platforms, this is just them, like, lining up the pawns, lining up the bishop, lining up the rook, and it's all going to come together eventually, trust me, and eventually I don't think they'll even have a console. I really don't. I think their money is in third party. It's as simple as that. They might stay with the streaming. I mean, we spoke about this on the previous... Was it the previous episode or the episode beforehand? But they might have a streaming handheld, You never know. Yeah. But I can't see them... Like, the thing is as well is with Game
I don't think
Pass,
it'll be streaming. I don't think I think it'd be a dedicated handheld.
You think?
Like a Steam Deck is what I mean.
Really? I mean, we've been over this before, but I think their future is streaming because, again, it bleeds into their service idea, So, yeah, dude, I don't know. It's really difficult, but I also think, like, with this news, it's one of those things where it's like people are kind of like, oh, is Xbox taking over, and all this stuff. It's like, I think that's a little hyperbolic in many ways. I mean, just like the article, stated, these are games that are live service titles, of which Sony don't really have much going on in that department in many ways. They have the Helldivers. That's about it, really, in many ways. It's like,
and just third-party stuff like Fortnite, Apex.
Yeah, exactly. So to me, when I see this stuff, when I see Xbox with the owned IP, and I say owned with air quotes because, let's be honest, like it's not theirs in many ways. I mean, it is theirs, but I don't like. There's part of me that's like, you just bought that shit. That ain't yours.
I mean, really,
anyway. Like, let's get at least half a decade, under them, to kind of call them yours. But I don't see it as much. I still see them as third-party games. I still see them as just kind of like, oh yeah, well, Sea of Thieves is on there. That's cool. But that's like new and it's a live service game. That's dope. Well done. It's in the best state it's ever been because it's a live service game. Fallout is, obviously benefited massively from the Amazon Prime show. Overwatch is Overwatch. And Call of Duty, again, is Call of Duty. But for a long time, I won't look at Call of Duty as an Xbox IP, even though I know it is factually. But Yeah,
I don't think I ever will, because I think it's already third party. It's been third party for decades. It will continue to be third party. I won't think anything of it.
Yeah.
You know, something I was thinking of, this is my perspective, right? Like,
sure.
Starfield, a game we both think is good. I like it more than you do. We both have a lot of problems with it. Yep. And those problems would still persist if it wasn't an exclusive. But I do think Starfield would have, I don't know if you agree with this. I personally think that Starfield would have been objectively received better if it had have been, provided it was the same game we got.
I know what you're going to say.
And not like worse because of bugs or something. If Starfield came out as a multi-platform Bethesda game like every game before it, I think it would have been criticized less than it was on Xbox, because Starfield was this big saving grace, Microsoft exclusive, like huge hype. This is going to be their game. And when it came out, it was like, it's more Bethesda, arguably more problems than their other IP. But I feel like if it was just another third-party game, it would have been received a little better. And at the same time, if Halo Infinite came over to PlayStation, I think there would be less of the people on that platform looking at it as like, this is nowhere near as good as the Halo 3 days. There's nothing on the story of Halo 2. It would be more like, whoa, this is like a super AAA polished open world space shooter with a robust online full of maps and stuff like that. So I do think there'd be a new angle that people would look at these games, and it would also receive new life. And, you know, and like I said, we've pretty much been focused on PlayStation, but like, is it crazy to think that like Switch 2 could get some of this stuff too? Like the rumor for Switch 2 is that it's going to be as powerful as a PlayStation 4. And Halo Infinite came out. Halo Infinite is playable on an Xbox One base. So why couldn't it be?
What does it play like though? What does it play like?
I mean, it's like 30 frames and like lower resolution, but like
pop in everywhere.
Handheld doesn't matter as much, right? So like, what if Halo Infinite was on Switch 2? I mean, Starfield, that might seem crazy because Starfield is an Xbox Series only game, but remember this, Witcher 3 is a Xbox One PS4 only game, and it got put on Switch.
Yeah.
So I just feel like the sky's the limit for this stuff. I feel like basically, you know, and this isn't the angle we were going for after we kind of incorporated this news.
Sure.
But the whole devil's advocate thing was going to be me saying like, hey, Joe, I think the Xbox games are better than we maybe think they are. And Joe's whole thing was probably going to be like, I think they're not that great, Brian. But I think when you look at like Sea of Thieves through the eyes of a PlayStation Store game, Hi-Fi Rush through the eyes of a PlayStation Store game, maybe Halo Infinite and Starfield would get some renewed love.
Yeah.
Some people would look at it a little differently. And I think even when like a Fable comes out, the new Fable game comes out for Xbox, even if that game's great, I think it might feel more great if it was on PlayStation, if it was on Switch. If it wasn't this, there's a stigma around Xbox. I guess that's the easiest way to say, make one sentence and leave it at that, is I think there's a stigma around Xbox. And before someone goes, yeah, Brian, that's right, Xbox gets shit on. Yeah. It's unfairly. No, that's actually not what I'm saying. I'm saying the stigma on Xbox exists because Microsoft made the stigma themselves. Like the stigma exists from Microsoft sucking at handling themselves.
It has to start somewhere. 100%.
So it's like it's Microsoft's fault that the stigma's there, but I'm like, I mean, I know a lot of people on the internet, and even like Joe to some degree will disagree with me, but I'm like, Halo Infinite and Starfield are pretty freaking good games. Like they're not like, your Witcher. They're not your Witcher 3 or your God of War 2018s, but they're pretty freaking good games.
Yeah, 100. Like this is the thing, right? Like there's always okay. So this is the thing with me. Like there's a part of me that's like this side of Joe. If people watching the video right now, this side, I'm like Two-Face, okay? This side of Joe's kind of like your optimist, okay? He's kind of like the more chilled out Joe, and you always kind of get that like second part. You get that part secondary, right? But the first part of me is like that. This side of me is always kind of like, that's fucking shit. And that's like kind of the British nihilism that comes through. And you know, like I spoke to you about this, and this goes in all parts of my life. Like getting candid here, like if someone pisses me off, the first thing I do to you is I'm like, fuck off. Like, I don't want to talk to you. You're a bastard. Go away. But then like I will come around after a bit and be like, hey, like let's work this out, let's sort it out. And it's very similar with the way I look at like Xbox games, Starfield, Halo Infinite. It's like when I first look at Halo Infinite, I see like this monument to all the failings in many ways. I see like I see Halo 4, I see Halo 5, these games I don't like, and I respect them, but like, and same with Halo Infinite, but like I I see it as this like really weird thing. And then the other side of me is like, well, when I play it and when I play campaign, I actually enjoy it. I still have the problems, but I still enjoy it. And it's the same with Starfield. When I was playing it, I had problems with it, but I really did enjoy my time with it. And I thought that there was some good shit in there, definitely.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're bad games. There's not a single part of me that's like, that game's a 3 out of 10. Like, I think that objectively, Starfield's an 8 out of 10. I think that Halo Infinite objectively is an 8 out of 10. And I think that, well, subjectively, like, probably like a 7 for Halo Infinite for me, and then like maybe a 6 for Starfield. But that's as low as it goes, dude. Yeah. And like, I don't subscribe to all that kind of like, not saying you say I do, but like,
yeah.
I don't subscribe to that whole, like, this game is straight trash. There's more nuance there, you know, every time. And I want to kind of roll back to what you said about Starfield. I know we've, like, gone over our time here a little bit.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
But, like, with Starfield, like, I think that you were saying with it being Xbox, it kind of got knocked down a little bit, but probably by sort of, like, Sony ponies or whatever, you know, overzealous fans, which, you know, is probably true. You know, there's loads of those people. You go on Instagram, IGN comments, and they're all there like knocking things down and calling things names and calling things trash, and it's just like, dude, go outside. But like, here's the thing, like, I think that in all honesty, Starfield, while that is true, I don't think it's necessarily mutually exclusive that it being on Xbox was a definite bad thing. I think that it having Xbox behind it, obviously allowing that year delay, allowing that support, allowing also that creative freedom, just allowed a more focused and consolidated release window. And I personally worry, like, in a practical sense, obviously we were speaking hyperbolically, but in a practical sense, if they didn't get that delay and they didn't get acquired ZeniMax, that Starfield would have eventually, or would have come out that year previously and been a bit kind of like, ooh, that's a bit shit, because you're not only developing for one set of ecosystem, you're developing for PC, obviously, you're developing for Xbox and Sony. And that's another thing to think about when it comes to the dev team, you know, so probably things might have been cut, or, you know, it might have come out more buggy.
That is why I said earlier, I was like, if it released on all platforms, the quality of what we got, because you're right. If it wasn't for Microsoft, it probably would have been more buggy. It would have had more problems.
100%.
But I think it's just interesting to see it through the scope, because like, when you're an Xbox gamer, I mean, not everyone's going to agree with this, but I think what a lot of times the sentiment in the industry or from people is, when you're an Xbox gamer, if you look at, as far as AAA big games go, right now, the peak of what Xbox has to offer is Halo Infinite, Starfield. You can throw Forza on there, right?
Yeah, maybe
that's
Gears,
the peak.
But
well, Gears, the only reason I didn't say Gears is because we haven't had a new release in 5 years. But like, that is the peak, Xbox experience. Yep. And your direct competitor, Sony, we're talking about God of War 2018, God of War Ragnarok. We're talking about Bloodborne. We're talking about Last of Us. We're talking about Uncharted, Spider-Man. It goes on and on. Ghost of Tsushima. And it's like, okay, the best of what Microsoft has to offer feels like it's a tier below the best of what Sony has to offer. And then if you extend that to Nintendo, the same thing applies. You're like, well, Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild, Super Mario Odyssey, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Like, it goes on, and you're like, okay, well, yeah, Xbox's games aren't as good as those either. But at the same time, if you just take me back 5 years ago, if you strand me on an island 5 years ago, and you show up on the island and you hand me a Series X with a copy of Starfield and a copy of Halo Infinite, I'm gonna be like, holy shit, these are two freaking awesome games on the system. And like, I'm not gonna really be aware. So it's like, there's almost like like I said, most of the Xbox stigma, I think, is from Microsoft doing a poor job of marketing themselves or fostering their IP or their creators, whatever. But there is another element of like, by comparison. Microsoft by comparison it's the weakest, right? But I feel like if Microsoft goes full third party, and Starfield and Halo Infinite and eventually Fable and maybe Gears games, whatever, are just kind of in the mix with the releases of Assassin's Creed and Call of Duty and Far Cry and all this stuff, I think it kind of changes the conversation a little bit to like appreciate those titles more, because it's less of like, this is the best Microsoft has to offer. That's kind of where I'm at, you know? So.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's all about relativity. It's all about comparison. And like you said, if you're in a bubble, you're you're in your own little world. I honestly think that every single one of these consoles on their own is fine. We're in a digital age where we're so connected to every other opinion and thought and review and just you're so plugged in. It's crazy, and you go on vacation or you do some, you go touch some grass and you come back and you start to realize like none of that really matters. Like you're just kind of like, I sit down and I'll play like, I don't know, Jedi Survivor or something. And to me, like this ain't an exclusive or anything, but it's like, this is as good as, and that's all I need, like I don't care about, there's The Last of Us better than say, Halo Infinite or whatever. Like it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. And one thing I will say is like my final thoughts on this is I genuinely think that Xbox are in their strongest position right now than they've been since the 7th generation, since the Xbox 360 days.
I mean, you're right.
They are
right.
They are consolidated in their approach. They clearly know what they want to do, whether I agree with it, whether someone else agrees with it or not. Like, this is what they want to do. This is what they've always wanted to do in many ways. Even since, when they first came in and tried to buy Nintendo, as soon as. They know what they're doing. They know what they want to do. And at the end of the day, like, this is their plan. This is their plan. Yeah. They're gonna go potentially third party, or they're gonna put at least more emphasis on the third party scene over the exclusives and over potentially the Game Pass side of things. And I think that we're gonna see some shifting tides in the future when it comes to the industry in many ways. So yeah.
I think it's interesting something you said. I think what you said was the definition of a word, which is semantics.
Yes.
So much of the gaming industry is semantics, and it mostly applies to more hardcore gamers because, like, the thing is, if you're just if you're a casual person who just plays a game every now and then, you're probably not aware of the semantics as much, which makes your experience better. But like, there's so many things that it's like I said, it's like seeing Halo Infinite and Starfield as the peak of what Microsoft has to offer.
Yeah.
That's semantics, right? Like that's me not looking at the games alone. Yeah. It's me looking at like who owns them, who made them, what they're supposed to do for this console, what they're supposed to do for this ecosystem. If you remove those semantics, I look at the games more positively. And on the other hand, I know Joe will agree with me so hardcore on this one. Like Horizon Zero Dawn and Forbidden West on the PlayStation, those are games that I see as like high quality AAA releases that I bought both of them and played through both of them. But it was because of the semantics of it being a PlayStation exclusive. Honestly, I don't really like those games that much. And if those games, like if you told me that the Horizon games were, like if I just came off the street, I didn't know anything. You told me the Horizon games were published by Ubisoft, I'd be like, oh yeah, those are Ubisoft games. I believe that. And I would never play them because to me, they're not that great. But the semantics of it being a premier PlayStation AAA exclusive game gets me to buy them, gets me to play them. And like I said, they're still good games, and I think Joe would agree they're good games. But me and Joe really don't care for those games that much.
And I also
the semantics make us care.
Yeah,
to some extent.
it's semantics through heavy pedanticism. Moaning about things that don't really matter in the grand scheme of things, and it's kind of ironic, coming from us who are sitting here talking about
because we are the ones who do that.
We're exactly the ones who do that. But I think it's also important, just in general, like we are now, trying to be self-aware, trying to be introspective, and trying to analyze like why we think this way. Because then once you think that way, and you start to look at why you think that way, you start to question why you think that way, and then you start to get an open mind, and then you start to explore more things and become more open. And that's one of the reasons why I sit here and I, wave the blue flag all the time, but it doesn't bother me. I mean, like if you, again, on the video, if you see behind me, I've got a Halo book right there, you know what I'm saying? Like, I love it all, baby. This is gaming, Yeah,
it's crazy the way that semantics skew things too, because I think even in another way, like, I think Halo Infinite, so much of people's disappointment with that game is the legacy of
100%.
Halo before it.
I hold my hands up with that. That's all me, baby. Like,
right? Because like I think, I mean, this is anecdotal, but in my experience with my friends and family and the Discord and people who listen to the podcast and wrote in, a lot of people, they got Halo Infinite when it came out. They played through the campaign, loved it, had a great time.
Me
jumped into the online, loved it, and had a great time too. But then the game didn't really like. It didn't have whatever Halo 3 had to make people play it for 2 years straight without leaving.
Zeitgeist and longevity.
Yeah, but like in the end of the day, like what did they do? Like 343 released a Halo game that looked pretty, played great, had a fun campaign, a fun multiplayer. It came out, and then we were all just like, yeah, it's good, but it's not good enough, so we hate it. And it's like it's like the semantics of it, right? I just feel like if we didn't look at what we'd experienced from Halo in the past, and to some degree, the developer has to be held accountable for that too, right? Because like if you get a sequel to God of War Ragnarok, you're going to expect to have at least a somewhat comparable experience to what you had in the last two God of War. So you do have to hold the developer responsible
quality bar,
to some degree. But at the same time, like I said, like once again, if you take Halo Infinite and bring it over to a PlayStation store or a Nintendo, does this now become a game that people would just really love? And they're like, oh, why? I don't understand why people hated on this so much. They don't have the legacy of being an Xbox fan for 20 years and knowing what it was like to live through the launch of Halo 3 and all that stuff. You know, it'd just be a great game. So yeah, I mean, I guess kind of like a closing statement of sorts through this whole discussion is like, so much of the gaming industry really is some semantics and us like seeing things through different eyes and just it just goes to show like once you kind of remove some of these walls and barriers that we've come to expect of, oh, this is exclusive, this is third party, this isn't. It's even like now, like, I mean, there's so many different ways you could spin it with PlayStation. Right now, Stellar Blade just came out.
Yep.
Rise of the Ronin came out a month ago, less than a month ago.
Yeah.
And or Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. All those games I just mentioned, none of those are PlayStation. Those are not PlayStation. Well, they are PlayStation exclusives. Yeah. None of them are owned by PlayStation. Helldivers 2.
Not studios,
It's not owned by PlayStation either. They're all those games are completely not owned by Sony. They just have a deal worked out, right? So it's like, you know, so those games could have been on Xbox, you know, and not owned by Xbox, you know, or like Call of Duty or Overwatch 2 topping the charts on Sony. Those are owned by Xbox, but they weren't created in a way that Xbox had any influence on at all. Those games were owned by someone else before they bought them. So just so many semantics there. And I think it's important that maybe we reflect on those semantics going forward as the industry changes so much. And we start to see things that kind of make us uncomfortable. Oh, Xbox exclusives are coming over. Oh, like I know a lot of like Sony fans on Twitter were freaked out when it was announced that the Ghost of Tsushima PC release was going to have a PlayStation overlay with trophies, because it's like, oh, they're continuing to water down our exclusive Bleed Blue experience. But it's all semantics, and it doesn't really matter. No, you know, so
doesn't matter at all. And you're still getting it day one. Like that's the most important. Like you're still the main customer at the end of the day.
And you've already played it, and you've already been playing it for years.
You had the great It's all about the experience, guys. It's what you take from these, these experiences, whether they're multiplayer, single player. And I think, like discussing like this, like with the whole semantics and pedanticism about this, like I think it's important to hold that level of quality. Okay, but it's also important to not let that level of quality and that level of criticism, and I struggle with it too, that level of criticism bleed into your personal feelings, your experiences in this industry. Because at the end of the day, we always talk about the industry. We're trying to be all professional, but it's a hobby. Let's enjoy this. Let's have fun, and I don't know, dude. I just think I say this, I've said this in the past, there's no better time to be a gamer than now, in my opinion. There's so much accessibility. There's so many games to have
so many ways to play.
So like the backwards compatibility is going crazy on the Xbox, and the PC's still there, chugging along with that stuff. There's so many games being made from an indie side.
Steam Deck, Switch, indies, AAA.
So many consoles. If you want to stream it, Xbox has got you there. Like it's all there, dude. And there's so honestly, there's problems. There's always going to be problems, but I think in many ways we should be more grateful for what we have.
Yeah. And it's funny too, because I'm sure there's people out there who are like, "Oh man, Xbox is dominating the PlayStation Store." You don't think PlayStation is extremely happy about that? Every game
how much
sold,
money they're getting.
They get money for doing nothing. They just host the game, and Microsoft gives them money for every one sold. So they're just raking in. I can't imagine the influx of just random extra cash from Sea of Thieves and Hi-Fi Rush and stuff that was not there before. And it's only going to be bigger when they do bring over something like a Starfield. So.
No, but
But this has been an awesome discussion, Joe. And I knew the potential was here to go longer. And I was like, screw it, let's just do it. We haven't been here for a couple weeks because I was on vacation. So I don't know. Do you have any closing thoughts, Joe, on anything we've talked about today?
No, dude. I mean, you're ill, but you've taken the fucking reins with this episode, dude. Great points all across the board.
You give me too much credit.
I really don't. And also, I feel like your voice is cleared up having spoken this much a little
Maybe
bit.
I'm just get it out of there. I'm just like working it out of my...
Get it out of my system, yeah. But I want to shout out Kyle, because he was kind of the person who inspired this news story in many ways. Stranger in the Night in the Discord. Shout out to you, broski.
Yeah, Kyle. I think his last name's Stewart. I'm pretty sure. Be corrected, but it was really cool because I had the idea for the like us kind of devil's advocate debating those two Xbox exclusives, but he brought this up to Joe, and I was like, oh, let's spin those things together and make an episode. So.
Yeah, and it's just great to see. I mean, I want to say what he said here to me. He says, "Dev, something for you and Brian to go over when he gets back. Love Sacred Games Daily, by the way. Good to see your YouTube views on that last one was so much better. Hope you're well." I mean, how nice is that? You know what I'm saying? Like, what a guy.
Dude, the dude's great. Like, he's coming out of nowhere from the. He's basically like in the shadows in the dark. You can't see him, and then like a thief dagger in the night. He comes out, but instead of a dagger, it's like a compliment card, and then he just goes back into the shadows, and it's just like you open it, it's like, you're great, keep it up. And I'm like, damn, dude.
Yeah, he's like a little positive Tonberry from Final Fantasy VII.
Nice. Yes, a little. Except he doesn't let his ass cheeks hang out like the new Final Fantasy 16 DLC.
Oh, why'd you have to bring it up? I was trying to say 7.
Tauntaun cheeks. Tauntaun cheeks.
Don't look that up, guys. It's horrible.
Yeah, it is pretty horrible. Maybe we should. I'll post in the Discord again so we can take a look. But Tonberry ass cheeks, or Ton Bussy, as people are calling it. All right, you know what, Joe? I want to make this hit an hour. I want to make this hit an hour. Yeah, so because we're coming this far.
Okay.
So let me throw it out there, Joe. What is going to be of the Microsoft announced projects we got? So what we had? We had Fable. We had what's the Clockwork game called? Clockwork Revolution.
Clockwork Revolution.
There was that indie looking title that was oh my gosh, it was like,
what are you thinking?
Dark and kind of folklore like. Oh man,
is it the one with the guy playing the guitar?
Yeah, that one.
What is that called? Keep going with the others. I'll Google it.
No, because I was thinking. Well, I'm trying to think of what else there is that hasn't come out. What comes to my mind is No Rest for the Wicked, but that's a different game. That's a game we're getting. But I feel like you're close to it here. I don't know, but what else was from that showcase? We got Forza, we got Starfield, we already brought Fable.
Hellblade, right?
Hellblade's about to come out. Yeah, okay.
Oh, could you say Stalker?
Stalker 2. Yeah. Okay, but that's like a temporary exclusive. Yeah. Which one of these games, once they're all released, do you think is going to pop off as the next big Microsoft exclusive? Is it Hellblade 2? Is it Fable?
No,
what is it?
I think it's Fable. I think it has
Fable.
As long as that initial gameplay impression's got to hit. Like big time.
Yeah.
That's the most important.
Because we don't really have that yet.
Yeah, we don't really have that. We have like the CG cutscene stuff. But I think Fable. I think people are buying at the bit for that humor, that style, that kind of ironic sort of playfulness. That Fable has.
So Fable will be coming to Steam also, right? Because that's how they're doing all their exclusives now, right? You get the Xbox PC store and Steam. Do you think we'll get Fable on PlayStation? Think that'll happen?
Not immediately.
Not immediately. Maybe later down the line.
I think you'll get it later. I think you'll definitely get it later.
Do you think Fable? I don't know if you'll agree with this. Do you think Fable has any chance, even if it's a better game? This is my opinion. I'll make the statement. You tell me if you agree or not. Even if it's a better game, I don't think it's possible for Fable to hit harder than Starfield did. I don't think it's possible for anything to hit harder than Starfield did as far as zeitgeist and interest and hype goes. Even if Fable's better, I don't think it's going to hit. What do you think? Do you think I'm wrong? Is it possible Fable's such a good game that it's like people talk about it like it's God of War Ragnarok that year or Baldur's Gate 3? Is that even possible?
I mean, I would like to say no, but because it's Starfield. But I mean, going back to Sony, we've just had Helldivers 2, which no one. I remember when we were doing the episode before Helldivers came out, and you were like, "Are you going to pick this up, Charles?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm going to pick this up."
Yeah, like you're good. Yeah.
And then it came out and it was like, holy shit, this game is crazy. Like no one can get into the servers because it's full of.
Yeah,
we know the story.
It's still crazy now.
Yeah, I mean, it's still like around 100,000 viewers.
Holy crap, dude! I'm pretty sure the first Helldivers, which was a twin stick shooter, top down.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure it came out the same year as Halo 5. If you told someone, 2015,
Yes,
If you
I
had
think you're
told
right.
someone 9 years later,
Yep, you're right.
the sequel to this top-down shooter, twin stick shooter, was going to be far bigger than Halo Infinite, the sequel to Halo 5, no one would have believed you. Like,
Nope.
you go right now and look at the Steam charts, people like listening, and look at how many concurrent players there are for Halo Infinite and how many concurrent players there are for Helldivers 2. No one would ever believe that was possible. And that's what I'm saying. Like,
it's not even concurrent, dude. It's all time as well. All time peak. Helldivers just
insane.
Eats it. It's crazy.
Insane, dude. We're living in a time where, like, in gaming, where like everything is on the table. Anything can happen. Like, you can get a Microsoft game coming to the PlayStation Store. You can get a PlayStation game with a PlayStation overlay coming to Steam on PC. You can get the sequel to a twin stick shooter from 9 years ago blowing up. I mean, people playing. Dude, I think I've said this somewhere. I don't know if it was on Sacred Icon or it was here. I've said this before. I remember literally in like 2009 getting pissed at my little brother because he was playing Roblox on our satellite internet connection. And I was like, why are you playing such a dumb shit game? Like, I probably told my brother at some point, you had to be one of a small selection of people that were dumb enough to play such a stupid ass game. And now it is one of the biggest games in the world. Like, Roblox is so much more popular than Halo right now. It's insane, dude.
Yeah.
Anything can happen. Anything can happen.
One thing I will say is Indiana Jones. I think that'll pop.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
I mean,
we are talking about pretty much single player games here. Microsoft doesn't really have anything upcoming multiplayer to take over that way. But I think Indiana Jones will pop. But my thing is like,
I would love
Indiana
to see
Jones,
that pop, dude.
I would
like
too.
Machine Games are so fucking talented. Like, they're so good.
But if I look at like their two previous bars, like here's the two previous bars you have Wolfenstein, the New Order, or the New Colossus. That's kind of their peak for like their own games they've put out. And then you have licensed IP. Indiana Jones cannot hit. There's no way it can hit as hard as Spider-Man. There is no way it can hit as hard as Star Wars. So you have a less popular IP, even though it's still popular. And then you have Wolfenstein, which I feel like Wolfenstein. Would you agree with me that like Wolfenstein, even though it was like third party, I don't think it ever popped off as much as Doom Eternal. I don't think it ever popped off. I don't think it ever popped off as much as even an Assassin's Creed. Really, like,
I don't
that year's Assassin. No. So like, how big can Indiana Jones go? You know, I don't know.
I don't know. By the way, that game we were talking about, we couldn't think of the name. South of Midnight.
South of Midnight. The word night was in my head, but I didn't know.
Yeah.
South of Midnight strikes me as a game that won't be very big, but what do I know?
I mean, it looks dope, but yeah, I don't know.
Isn't it the people who did Contrast? Is that what it was? What studio is it?
Compulsion.
Yeah, they did the game Contrast. Okay.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
There's some good games on the horizon for Xbox. It's just we're just waiting to see what's going on with them in many ways. You know,
Fallout 70, dude. Oh my gosh, Fallout got a TV show.
Yeah.
Halo got a TV show. After both of their respective TV shows came out, Fallout 76 is far more popular online than Halo Infinite is. I cannot believe I'm saying that.
I can. TV shows do, like, external media to the masses do wonders, dude. Like, that parity
Fallout
is crazy.
76
just like
for me at
launch.
launch. Yeah, you're right, but like Fallout 76 for me at launch, like that was like, if somebody said to me, Brian, name a couple shit games, I would have been like, oh, Fallout 76 and Anthem.
Yeah.
You know, and now 100%. It's like, it's bigger than Infinite.
Yeah, and in many ways, I haven't played Fallout 76 in so long that I can't speak on the quality of it, but like I feel like there are still caveats to it. Like it's not still a true to form Fallout game, but like it's still apparently it's a very good time, and I think that's great. Like that's brilliant.
You know what I wish they would do? I wish they would put my house in Fallout 76 because
where is it set? Where is 76?
It's set in West Virginia, where I live.
Oh, of course it is, because the music. Yeah, Virginia.
Take me home, West Virginia. So yeah, like when you guys are in the wasteland, like there's stuff there. Like they talk about Mothman, they talk about Camden Park. That's shit from right where I went around where I lived. Like just think any moment you could be passing by Brian's house there.
Yeah.
Oh, Joe, I gotta ask you a would you rather.
Oh yeah, sure, That'll round us
I gotta
out.
get you one.
There we go.
What's that? Okay.
That'll round us out.
I'm not going to be able to. I've set the bar too high with what I've asked you before. I'm not going to throw Kojima in there this time because I always do that. Okay. Here's my question, Joe. Well, it's not really a would you rather. It's more just like a scenario.
Okay.
It is revealed that Sony is bringing a successful in-house IP of their own, just one, or successful game over to the Xbox ecosystem. Which game is
something they've already made?
Something they've already made that was very successful. I'm not saying something shitty nobody cares about, like they're bringing over freaking Fat Princess to Xbox.
Okay.
Something good. What? And let's take Helldivers 2 off the table because that's an easy one.
Yeah.
What game are they bringing over? Okay, I thought you might because it's just a big popular online game that's running on PC.
That's cheating. Is there a right answer here? Do you think? Like, have you got?
I don't think there's anything turning in my head.
Okay, you know what mine is? Like, this is as objective and as business Sony as I can go.
Okay.
Horizon Zero Dawn.
Okay, why's that?
Because they are trying to franchise the shit out of that IP.
True. MMO show, and then after that, the next game, the sequel will go onto the Xbox, and they just keep pumping that Horizon out, baby. And it sells like a fuck ton. You know it does. Like, it's up there with Spider-Man, right? Something like that. Yeah, it's like 30 million sale, over 30 million for the franchise. Only got 2 games. Well, plus the VR game.
What the hell are Sony boys buying over there? I mean, like, how does it sell almost as much as Spider-Man?
I think because you know what, it makes some sense. I prove a point for me and then I don't prove a point for you. For me, it's like, oh, it makes sense. It's in that Ubisoft Assassin's Creed pocket. I don't really like Horizon that much. I don't really like Ubisoft or Assassin's Creed that much. That doesn't work for you as much though because you do like Assassin's Creed.
I love Assassin's Creed. I like old Assassin's Creed.
Old Assassin's Creed.
Yeah,
so maybe that's what I'm going to go ahead and say. I'm going to say Sony brings a. Well, I guess that's kind of cheating. I was going to say Killzone over to Xbox. But why that's cheating is it kind of ruins the question because by the way I asked you the question, they'd have to bring like an old Killzone over. Okay. But I'm like picturing them like doing like a live service Killzone.
That is cheating.
It's cheating. So okay, if I was gonna allow new games, I would say a live service Killzone that also gets brought over to Xbox because first person Killzone that's totally in Microsoft's wheelhouse.
Yeah, it would.
As far as game that's already built, Horizon, I wouldn't have thought of that one.
Do you think that's a good pick though? Like,
I think it's a good pick in the sense that like it fits in that like third. It's very much like a third party game, like a Assassin's Creed. Like, oh, this will sell everywhere.
Yeah.
But it's also not online, which I was kind of thinking like more an online game might do it. What was that game? Okay, this is my answer. What was that game that it was an online? I think it was like a car game, Destruction All Stars or some shit.
Yes, Destruction All Stars. Yeah,
they bring that over to Xbox because it bombed on the PlayStation.
Okay, what would make it not bomb on? Would it survive on Xbox though if it bombed on PlayStation?
Well, or you know what? Another answer would be Foam Stars. Remember that game?
Yeah, is that game still going?
It technically, but no one's playing it.
Wow. Splatoon just owns that side, mate.
And you know what's crazy is I'm pretty sure everyone thought Foam Stars would have a bigger player base than Helldivers 2.
You thought.
Yeah.
Wow,
crazy, dude.
Yeah, Splatoon's a good one. I mean, not Splatoon. Foam Stars.
Foam Stars.
I even called it wrong.
Yeah. I think the All-Stars Destruction whatever game, I think actually had a fan base. So that might make more sense. But
okay.
I don't know.
Okay. Yeah,
we'll see.
Not bad.
I don't know, just Xbox, they handle the live service stuff better than Sony. So that's kind of where my mind is at.
I think probably to answer that question in your context, you probably need to ask that question in 5 years' time, potentially.
Yeah.
And then we'll get somewhere with that.
Like I said, when I'm not using Kojima, my questions just aren't as good. Kojima is though my...
Am I that one-dimensional?
Yeah. No. Well, it just gets you going, with the Kojima stuff.
It does.
But all right, guys. You have your first ever twice as long 1 hour Sacred Games daily episode. I think it's fair since we missed last week since I was on vacation, but I thought this was a juicy episode. Maybe my favorite one yet. We really enjoyed talking about this, guys. Hope you check us out. Check out Sacred Icon, our main show. Check us out on YouTube or any podcast service. Go over to our patreon.com/Sacred Icon. Leave us an email, a voice clip at sacrediconpodcast@gmail.com. We love you guys. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Sacred Games Daily. And as always, keep it sacred daily.
Peace.